Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is January 13th, and right now we're looking at the Langley Doppler radar. You can see some of the precipitation moving towards the Washington and Oregon coast as we speak. We have winter weather advisories all the way up towards Olympia right now. Most of the precip should be Olympia south, and then the heaviest stuff is going to be as you get towards the Portland metropolitan, towards Longview and Kalama out there, and Kelso, and there's some winter storm warnings in effect. There's also some blizzard warnings in effect for the gorge there of Oregon, and we're going to get some freezing rain the further south you go across some of the Willamette Valley and the Oregon coast. We're also going to have some very strong winds across the Cascades of Washington, including the Stampede Gap, North Bend, Enumclaw, perhaps gusting up towards 70 miles per hour, and we could be gusting up over 80 miles per hour across the Columbia Gorge. That could be moving into eastern Oregon as well and across some of the Portland metro. So pretty dynamic winter storm incoming here. Going to go down there and chase it. So I'm going to do a little bit of an abbreviated video here this morning. We got to get on the road. Taking a look at the infrared satellite imagery and see that storm rolling in right now. Man, it's a tough call here because it looks like some of this precip might ride up a little bit further north, and if any of that does get towards the Seattle metro, it can be kind of disruptive here. But right now, no winter weather advisories out, and the models do show that precipitation staying mainly south of Olympia. Now, looking at some of the precipitation forecasts here for Oregon, you can see Salem and Corvallis here, and some of Eugene under the gun, Oregon coastline as well, and then you can see that cutoff there between the snowier totals here across some of the Portland metro and up towards Woodland, some of Vancouver, Washington. You can see Longview here in Chehalis right on the cutoff there. It only shows 1 inch here on the Portland National Weather Service, but you could see some locally higher amounts there as well. And then you see the big amounts across the Cascades also. Now, taking a look at the winter storm timeline, it's going to be Saturday morning here for the Portland National Weather Service. You see some blizzard conditions out there across the Columbia River Gorge and the greater Portland, Vancouver metro here. Some gusty east winds, and that snow is going to be blowing around here. Then you're going to be getting the freezing rain. So pretty dynamic winter storm indeed incoming here. And this is up towards the Puget Sound lowlands here. This goes to 10 p.m. this evening here, and you can see some gusts to 65. So the models are showing actually up towards 70 or 75 miles per hour, but pretty dynamic gap wind event incoming here for the East Puget Sound lowlands. I'll show you the map on that here in a moment. Here's some of eastern Oregon and Idaho, the 48-hour storm total for some of Boise. You can see 8 to 12 inches, Mountain Home, Jerome, Twin Falls, and you can see Ontario there as well. And you can see the winter storm impacts here, moderate impacts across some of I-84 out there, and major impacts even across some of the higher terrain, including Twin Falls as well. So heads up, the storm is going to come rolling through eastern Oregon here and portions of Idaho as well. And you can see there is going to be some of that avalanche danger. So if you're going to be off and about the backcountry here over the next few days, there is some high avalanche danger right now. It's considerable across some of the Washington Cascades and Oregon Cascades, and some moderate here across some of the North Washington Cascades as well. Looking at current hazards, check it out. You can see the high wind warnings there for the east portions of the Puget Sound lowlands. You can see the winter weather advisories trying to creep up towards Olympia here, and then the pink is the winter storm warnings, and that the purple one here is the ice storm warning here for some of the southern Willamette Valley. That can get nasty pretty quick here, folks. And once you start getting more than ½ inch of ice accumulation, you start doing some damage out there. And if you watched my video on my Tesla last year, you know what happens when ice starts to accumulate on the roadways. It gets extremely slick, and there's that blizzard warning down the gorge here as well. And that winter storm warning extends all the way through southern Idaho. Some winter weather advisories and the winter storm warnings dominate eastern Oregon as well. Now, take a look at the European on the left versus the GFS on the right, and you'll see the model's pretty good agreement. You can see that snow line trying to creep up towards Olympia there. It's going to be quite cold and dry snowfall here. So if you get an inch or two out there, it might be kind of dynamic. And you can see some of the I-5 corridor is going to be affected as we go through the afternoon and the evening, actually starting late morning here. I mean, this is 10 a.m. and it's already impinging on the Portland metro here. So that should be starting, if it's not already right now, it will be very soon across some of Southwest Washington, Portland metro. And of course, it looks like the freezing rain is probably on or just starting or ongoing as we speak. Then you see that low pressure center slide across Willamette Valley, and that precipitation continue across eastern Washington or eastern Oregon on in through Idaho. And then we've got another system out here. It's going to try to run into some cold air. More on that here in a moment. And we're really going to go into more of that in detail tomorrow. And we're going to try to let as much model information and get as close to that event as we can, because it's going to be a tricky situation as far as the forecast is concerned. Now, looking at Tillamook, you can see the 0-degree line here, and you can see the cold air at the surface, but the warmer air just off the surface. And that's what sets up these freezing rain events. Look at the very chilly temperatures of the surface and that warmer tug there. So you imagine you're just dropping rain into that very cold sub-freezing air, and it's just going to stick and freeze and accumulate to every single surface that it can get its hands on. And you can see that goes on for a while here. So as long as that precipitation continues on into tonight, you're likely to have that freezing rain. Then you're going to warm up and moderate some, as you can see, but you still look to be below freezing as we go on into very early Sunday morning coming up through tomorrow. Now, looking at Tillamook gives you a nice visual diagram here of that freezing air trapped at the surface here, and the warmer air aloft and the rain falling through it and just coating the surfaces with that freezing rain. Same thing for Salem and Eugene down south. This is also that look at the cross section here, what's known as a sounding. You can see that warmer air aloft moving above that very cold air at the surface. There's also going to be an area that probably has this rain freezing into ice pellets before it hits the surface. So that won't coat the surface so much, but it'll be dropping ice pellets, and maybe quite a few of them for some areas across some of the Willamette Valley or some of the coastal range as well. Could be getting some of those ice pellets also. What formerly used to be known as sleet. Now, taking a look here, if you want a nice affordable home weather station, click on that link down below to save 10% off. Moving on quickly here, let's take a look at the European versus itself. Actually, let me back up there again here. Let's go ahead and do that, and we'll let this run through. You can see the European, the 06Z versus yesterday afternoon's pretty good model agreement here. And you can see the sharp snow cutoff line right there near Chehalis there across Washington. So the I-5 corridor, the further south you go, definitely high impact stuff coming as we go through the day today. Now, taking a look at the accumulated freezing rain. So this is the real dangerous stuff, and you can see it as we go through the morning hours and into the afternoon hours, really piling up across the coastal areas. And talking about perhaps over an inch ice accretion across some of the southern Willamette Valley or central Willamette Valley here. So that is dangerous stuff here, folks. Watch out for that as we go through the day today. I'm wondering if we'll run into some of that as we travel south out of Seattle today towards the Portland metropolitan area, and then east. Looks like maybe a little bit. Now, take a look at accumulated max 10-meter wind gusts. Look as we go through the morning, some of these just huge winds roaring through the gorge. The Stampede Gap here across eastern Washington as the low-pressure center drives right into the Willamette Valley. Impressive pressure gradient is going to be setting up here. And if we look at that pressure gradient, you'll clearly see it with the low pressure off the coast and the very high pressure right on the backside of the mountains here. It's going to be rushing that cold air through some of these mountain gaps. Very impressive windstorm incoming today. Going to extend out in towards the Portland metro as well. Seattle, Tacoma, you can actually see the European showing a little bit of snowfall as we go through midweek. And again, we're going to revisit this in much more detail tomorrow. I don't want to get caught up in any of these details with this next storm right now. It's going to be a transitionary event as we get some of that Pacific moisture running back into some of the cold air here. Models like to scour out cold air much quicker than it actually does. So we're going to look at this again tomorrow in some detail. It's the very cold temperatures and then the moderation. And this is when that warmer air would be trying to move in up over some of that cooler air here. And you can see the temperatures definitely moderating by that time frame. Here's Vancouver International Airport. The further north you go is probably a better chance you're going to have some of that cold air left around. And depending on how things line up, you can get some of that cold air banking up against the Olympic Mountains of Washington or back in the valleys of North Washington into Southwest BC as well. Yakima, watch out, you might get some snow today here, even just an inch or two here as a storm system mainly pivoting across eastern Oregon. Now, taking a look at the GFS, I just want to show you what's coming here today. You can see it tries to get up towards Olympia there as we go through the afternoon and evening, moves on, and then we got that next storm system rolling up here, and you can see it starting as ice across some of western Oregon and some of western Washington. But again, take that with a grain of salt right now. The big model discrepancy there, and we're going to get better data the closer we get to that system. And tomorrow I'll do my full briefing here, and we'll look at that in some detail. European, something similar here as well. Let me just run through that, and you can see the icing that will be coming here, and it does show it for some of western Oregon and Washington. So again, definitely something to be worth watching here over the next few days. So anyway, I'm going to get on the road here, and we're going to head south. I'll probably be doing a live stream. You can watch some of those big wind gusts here as we get down into the Oregon Gorge here and see some of the conditions, possible blizzard conditions down there as well. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Watch out down there across Western Oregon. Very dynamic storm incoming here. Not much expected for Seattle, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that you see some flakes flying as we go through the day today. And it's going to be plenty cold enough, so anything that falls is going to stick unless it's super dry and it's blowing around. Then it might get blown off the surfaces. But anyway, we're going to head down and go storm chasing here. And hopefully you guys can join me for the live stream. But we'll do this again tomorrow. And we'll look at that storm here in some much better detail. And I will talk to you guys then.